Call the meeting to order, so somebody want to read the mission statement?
I can. The East Marshall Community School District instills a passion for learning to inspire and to prepare students to achieve.
Right, we do not have any visitors today.
Need to approve the agenda.
And we will, yes, we need to go to approving the agenda, so I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I can make that motion to approve the agenda as presented.
All right, can I get a second?
I can second that.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, so the first agenda item is, so was that the consent agenda or the agenda?
It's the agenda.
That's what I thought, so I was just making sure. Okay, so then we have the consent agenda.
There are two additional hires that were added since the publication of the board packet. One is high school math, one is art, yes, middle school art. Those are within your packet in the consent agenda.
Yeah, that's waiting.
So yeah, okay, looks like we got open enrollments later, right? A separate topic, so.
You can make them a separate topic if you want to.
No.
It is part of the
Oh,
consent
It
agenda.
is, okay, yes, it is. But did we need to talk about that more?
Well, you can if you want. It's listed as an action item as it's listed. So if you move forward with leaving it in there without pulling it out, you'll be approving the request.
Did we want to circle back on the open enrollment, the two exceptions that we talked about last time? That's the one thing that I guess I had a contract or had a question about where we left off on that.
I think it makes sense that we pull that out and just make sure we're on the same page there.
Okay. And then I had a question about the shared sports, so I don't know.
We go ahead and pull that
that
one
out
out
too
then.
then, okay. So then that would be, so we're proving, or we're pulling out agenda item I as well as M for further discussion. So was there any other ones that you guys?
Oh, the bids are in there too. Do we need to pull those out at all?
Yeah, I wondered, because I thought one of them, we really didn't have like, I mean, there was no formal recommendation for those.
What you would do in that situation was go with the lowest bid. So go ahead and pull it if you want to make it a concerted action item.
Was that just for G, Liz, or did you?
Yeah, that
Okay,
was just
not
G.
for H, right?
Yeah,
G.
yeah, because I was thinking G, normally we do have like a discussion about.
Yep. Is there anything else that we wanted to pull out? If not, does somebody want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of G, I, and M?
We can make a motion to approve the consent agenda with taking out G, I, and M.
And can I get a second?
Andy can second it.
All right, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And Mark, that included the wall pads. So go ahead and communicate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
They're a whole way out, so.
They had the S on them, right? Or were they just black and gold?
There's black and gold.
Just black and gold, okay.
All right, so item G first. And so this was the both milk and LP, right? So. And. For some reason, I thought.
milk, we just have the one.
I thought, yeah, that's what I
Which is
thought too. Milk was really just one,
normal.
wasn't it? Okay,
Yeah.
so we're good there and we'll go to the gas basically. So we've got separate bids for LP, diesel and gas. Remind me, Tony, who we had last year?
Oh, gosh, Alan, I need your help on that one. What bills are we paying?
I don't pay the bills anymore, so.
I apologize,
No,
because
that's
we
okay.
jumped around a little bit on this
Okay.
one. We've had Criswell, we've had Heartland. This year, I'm not quite sure who we firmed up with.
Because New Century's obviously the lowest in LP, right?
No, I think we have New Century this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're right.
Okay.
You say that now, cause I do see. in-
and then,
And each time that we transition, they have to come in and change out their equipment.
Okay. And so we are with New Century, so we would not have to have the equipment
Correct.
swapped out.
okay,
And then do we usually, I mean, there's just a slight difference on the diesel between New Century and Nutrien, but would we typically stay with the same vendor for LP and diesel?
We haven't always.
Okay.
But
And I don't know from that who we have right now either, do we? Okay. We can. It would have been about the
Last
same
year.
time of year, right?
yeah, if you go to August, you probably, or July, it should be in the minutes.
July.
From-
June. Okay.
It would have been June minutes that would be in the July packet.
Last year, we did Heartland for LP, diesel to New Century. Milk was A&E and gas was Tom's Tire here in Gilman.
But we did New Century and then what was the other one? I'm sorry.
So
The LP went to Heartland.
LP
Okay.
went to Heartland,
last year. Okay.
and then the diesel went to New Century, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, June of 24. Yep.
Well, and it looks like New Century is the lowest bid. And then they will make an adjustment if cost goes down.
Mm-hmm. They're just slightly higher on the diesel than Nutrien, but
Yeah. It's just on that additional fee that we pay to the terminal price.
yeah, I would think it might be easier to stay with the same one if it's
That's
not.
kinda what I'm thinking.
Billing
different
different.
ways, but I mean, we would obviously have the opportunity to do different vendors if it was drastically different, but it might be simpler if we keep it this way, so.
I can make the motion that we go with New Century on both LP and diesel and Tom's Tire on the gas.
I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty, so then we will go to I next. And I had a question, not really an issue with this. So is Scott asking, I mean, so it's basically agreements for these, and these are all existing sharing agreements that we have currently. I know he put on here, and the only one I'm close to is wrestling. I know he put on here tentative until we know numbers for wrestling with GMG and Meskwaki. I didn't know, I mean, does he typically, and if you don't know this, I'll just follow up with Scott, but I didn't know if he had followed up with the coaches on any of this yet, because I think there's a desire to potentially move to 1A. And so I'm not sure that there's a desire to keep GMG, not that we really even have a wrestler coming from GMG. The wrestler that we had from GMG just graduated. So I don't think Meskwaki affects our numbers from a 1A, 2A perspective, but so I just don't know, like if we say, I don't have an issue with it, but I just didn't know if he's, talked to the coaches, or if we say yes, if that automatically makes it happen, or what.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Scott sent the email
Yeah.
and he and I really didn't talk about it.
Okay.
However, I do know Scott communicates on a regular basis with the coaches
Mhm.
on these sorts of things, but did I specifically ask him that question? I did not.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. have the
Matt,
background.
have you had that much of a candid conversation with him?
We've had candid conversation about, do we continue the sharing agreement.
Mhm.
The issue is we have the two schools and that usually pushes us to 2A. And I know, like you said, GMG only had one wrestler last year.
Mhm.
When I asked Scott, the last I don't think they've had a junior high wrestler in a
They
number
don't.
of
I don't
years,
think
so
either, but-
I'm not sure. I think Scott was waiting to hear if they even thought they'd have any wrestlers in the program.
Yeah, and that might take care of itself, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I read this was, we'll wait and see numbers, but tentatively this would be what we would do.
Mhm. Which makes sense.
So, yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I was just curious.
Can I have a refresher on how it determines which class we're in? Is it the numbers by the senior class, numbers by the junior class, combined of the two, or is it just what, how do they determine which class we're in?
What's called your beds number is
Yeah.
your, this year's freshmen through juniors. Next year's number, so it would be those students that were freshmen through juniors are now sophomores through seniors. So it's basically your sophomore through senior students that would have been in the building or in the district on October 1st.
Only,
So-
only high school.
So only in high school, but it's their whole student body, so whether they got 112 kids or 200 kids. If they're only sending one or two kids, all of those have to count towards our numbers. And that's how we end up in 2A is because you had 3 schools, total student enrollment for those 3 classes together. Pushes us up above the 2A or the 1A limit.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with, and I can talk to Scott about it separately too, but to see what. Cause I think there could be a shift in coaching staff this year too in the wrestling space, so that's kind of up in the air, I think too.
Yeah.
All right,
I can make a motion to approve the, what's this called? Coaches, or, not coaches, shared sports agreements.
all right, can I get a second?
I can second that.
All right, and then all in favor?
I
Any opposed? All right. The next agenda item is item M. The open enrollment.
You know, with students in question from the last meeting. And visiting with parents, one you're aware of is, one was golf related, that request. Another one is, a social emotional need per the parents. They continue to say they're in support of East Marshall and would like the opportunity to make that transfer for social emotional purposes. And then the third one that we reached out to was an accusation of bullying. And after visiting with the parent, when I reached out to the principal with the specific situation didn't know anything about it. So I will say that's where your deadline dates do somewhat protect the district, as in the rules are set up so the district has an opportunity to fix the issue, to investigate, to try to be proactive with the scenario. And sometimes the bullying and harassment phrases thrown out of frustration without truly fact finding. So when I did visit with the building principal, she didn't have any recall as far as the specifics in this situation. However, the family would disagree with that statement as well.
And that's also the one that the receiving district had already approved, right?
No, that the receiving district was the social emotional topic.
Okay.
The bullying and harassment one, I believe, was Linmar.
Okay.
I believe
Oh, okay, yeah.
that was the other district, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Linmar.
I don't know which it says which one, but.
But the situation, the one involving the golf one, we can't even entertain because they want to come here and the resident district has already said no. So.
And that's not one that's in our list anyway, correct? That's
Correct. But it was brought up the last meeting, I believe it was either in the list or something, I don't recall at this point, but.
So really. The open enrollment in we've approved. I mean, they met the deadlines, they met the criteria. Let's put it that way.
Kindergarten is a September 1 deadline.
Got it, so that's good. And then there's several outs to GMG that are family moves, so that.
Yeah,
met the-
those are good cause. Yep, those are good cause.
So really, it's the last two on our open enrollment list, so the carryovers from the last conversation,
Yep.
so. And no, what did we say? We wanted more information, I
Mhm.
think. I'm
And
gonna
we,
put you on the spot.
we discussed, the parent having the right in the fact that, a parent wants what's best for their student and, who are we to get in the way of that? What prevents, I mean, because obviously their other option is to go online, but is that the best solution for that particular student? We don't know. So again, that's just kind of where, in the one situation, since it's a district further away, we also questioned, is it a family situation and who's to say that we should get involved in that either? So that was kind of the discussion that we had last month about it.
So we're struggling with the dilemma between funding, right? And that aspect of things, because it's not insignificant, that we do need to take that into account.
And weren't we gonna follow up with the state on some questions with that too, if we could restrict funding or not? Cause that was.
Funding was brought up, and you can
Yeah.
ask those questions. What I would do is specifically have those specific questions. So those questions are in minutes, so Allison can effectively make those contacts.
So that didn't
No,
happen.
we did not contact the
Okay.
state, no.
I think that was our question is. Obviously, we don't want ourselves in a situation where we would lose out on funding either.
I'm assuming you didn't make any calls.
No.
either. No.
So what directly, what specifically do you want asked?
Was our question, because I think there was some conversation that we thought that
That.
I might be thinking of the district that approved it. And they would, before they currently had.
Because it was out of turn.
Yeah,
I think we were
Yeah.
talking about, can we say we're gonna hold on to the funding, but let the student go? I think that was exactly what we wanted
We
to
were
know.
just saying like for the 1 year
Yeah.
essentially, because
Megan.
they missed the deadline.
Yeah, you're correct, because we've discussed how other districts have allowed students to
Yep.
come here.
Yeah.
But the resident superintendent had given me a phone call saying, but the money isn't following this year,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
so we just wanted to verify that that was
that's
appropriate.
an
That's,
acceptable.
that's how that
Yeah,
conversation
yeah.
went.
But if other districts do it, it must be acceptable.
Well, we can't assume that though.
Yeah, I'd rather have an opinion from the state to protect ourselves than make a decision that we find out that we are in the wrong.
You good with that question?
That's what I
Yeah,
got it down there.
okay.
And what communication have we had with the families thus far on these two scenarios? I know we just.
Right after the meeting, there's an email that, to the situation involving Grinnell Newburgh, so they know. Well, emails, phone calls, and they know that it was tabled until July.
Okay.
Is there a time frame that we have to approve these?
Should have been tonight, but I feel like I was maybe supposed to do something with policy.
The rule of thumb is typically 30 days, but you're in the middle of summer. August is when kids start, so. You'd be fine in July. Nobody's gonna make issue of it.
Yeah, except it'd just be hard on the parents if they don't know
Yeah.
where they're.
You are correct, because people are wanting to register their kids now.
Yep,
Why don't we?
I say we approve it and then we'll figure it out going forward.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's on.
Just
We're-
let the children go
Yeah, that's-
do that, but we'll
Mm.
find out.
Yeah, let's get that question answered for future.
I like it.
Perfect. All right. I'm gonna make a motion to say approval of the open enrollment out.
Mhm.
And have in the minutes that we ask those questions
Mhm.
for future incidents.
And I can second that.
All right, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay,
Much quicker than this.
that was good. All right. So that takes us down to agenda item 4, the discussion of the FEH architects.
So Tyler was on campus today. Today he was looking at door frames and window frames. Primarily at the high school today. I believe I also put in one of the regular notes that, or maybe it was last month, that our junior high science room is gonna need air conditioning. That's gonna be probably a school board action item due to the amount that it's going to cost. But that's the direction you do need to go on that one for, it will help control some of the moisture and, we've got a, health and life safety, request going on with the staff member as well. And so that is one that I highly encourage the district to move forward on. The architect was involved with that one because that is one of those classrooms that we have been, managing, I'll say, as far as the moisture issue over a period of time here. And so Tyler did, connect with some engineers. The engineers gave their specs, and at this point, we're waiting for quotes. Once we get those, you may want to hold a special meeting, or you may want to wait till July. It's just, if you wait till July, I don't know the turnaround time for the contractors. But Tyler did reassure me that this is not a project that will take days and days once the equipment gets here. And the contractor is available, it won't take long. But in the last 5, 6, 7 years, contractors, it's a challenge to get into their schedule. As well as they don't keep equipment on hand. They wait till a project, find out what they need, then they order it, and then there's a wait time. So my guess is when the quotes come in, the contractors will not have all the equipment that is needed right away. So I'm just planting that seed. Some other options as well as far as involving Tyler in regards to the bond vote in November. You need to get going on the scope and approving the scope so you can get a public petition out there to be on the ballot. Tyler needs some information from the school board on that. He needs a work session. I did connect with him as far as dates, and Kevin's here this evening, so you guys may want to check your calendar to see if July 1, 2, or 3 works in your calendars. And I can go ahead and communicate back with Tyler.
That's the dates, July 1, 2, or 3?
1, 2, or 3, anytime after 3 p.m. for Tyler.
2's out. For me.
I can do 1, the first. 6 or later.
I can do the first. I'd have to do after 5 for sure. You said the second was out.
Yeah, I can do the first. I got concession stand, but I can move that. Let's go.
First looks good.
Do you have concession stand for baseball or softball?
I don't know.
I was gonna say baseball.
No, I just know it's 4:30 to 7.
Baseball's canceled if that's
Oh.
what it was, because we were supposed to play Belle Plaine and they pulled out.
Okay.
So,
do that.
now I have a
There
free
you go.
night.
I never know where I'm going until I like look
He
at
did
it.
mention June 24, 25, but there are conflicts, those who did.
Yeah, I'm out of town the 23rd through the 30th. I come back,
Let's just do the first. I
Yeah.
don't think we're, I mean, if we can find a date with all of us.
yep.
Are you
First.
available first?
Absolutely.
All right.
July
First is
first, what time?
It has to be after six
Yep,
or after,
six.
right?
Mhm.
So,
6 p.m. for a work session. Right?
yep, with
Yeah.
Tyler.
Work session. I'll have your agenda ready to go, but we'll stick with it.
Sounds great.
Would we say 6 or after, or just 6? Okay, cool.
So we're talking about the bond, but also just in case anybody's keeping track. We got an air conditioning at the middle school.
Yeah.
We got tuck pointing and we have the high school magic room that has the gas tank in it.
And
They're like,
I was up on that area of the roof today and it looks like that gap is getting bigger.
yeah.
So. I did plant a seed with Amy Gage. That we've got some door frames at the elementary.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
one in the
you just said
kitchen.
door frames and windows now.
Oh,
right? I
yeah.
forgot those.
Yeah, and I highly encourage the district to consider. In that one area where that one door frame is, to consider a walk-in cooler and freezer. What we currently have at both Gilman and Laurel are truly short-term. And the district has used it for long-term. Those units are designed for flatbed trucks and not to remain stationary for a building.
Yeah.
So just FYI on that, and I kind of share with Kevin as well. I think I already shared that, but maybe I didn't. Maybe it was with Allison when I planted that seed, but. So Amy's aware of the suggestion.
Okay.
You guys will have to work through that, whether it's a good idea or not, so. But regardless, you do have a couple door frames at Laurel that are gonna need attention, so when you're doing the high school. You're gonna wanna make sure you pull those into it as well.
Was it the walk-in freezer room? Wasn't that mentioned when we had the bond discussion last year too, and they were talking about?
At Laurel,
Yeah.
I think so. I think that was part of the scope.
By somebody that was
Yeah,
Yeah.
frustrated. Okay.
but regardless, if you get the bond issue passed, you're gonna need to fix that door frame.
Mhm.
And that would be the time to do it.
Mhm. Okay.
So. Consensus is for this discussion item, July 1st. With Tyler at 6 p.m.
Mhm.
in this office.
Okay. Because really though, I mean, we don't need to go see anything, so. Okay.
And the main goal of that work session is get a scope determined. Because you get it. You're not gonna wanna drag your feet with the public petition. Because that's gonna take a little bit of time to get to the courthouse. And there are deadlines with that. Going along with that is. The public needs a fair chance to. I'm blanking what they call it. It's like
Respond.
an appeal
Yeah.
on things, so.
The next agenda item is approval of the purchase of science.
Melissa did send. A video this evening that's about 12 minutes long. That mirrors this language. Would you like to see it this evening? Or just
Melissa.
Melissa did, okay.
blue, yeah. Your guys' call.
Did they go into the, like, why they picked what they picked kind of thing?
Yeah, she does, she covers it. I almost encourage you guys to.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
She put it together, so. The costs are there. It's gonna be roughly around $39,000. For both the middle school.
So she's not here to ask this question, but so I think when we bought new curriculum for math and some of the other ones, we had some lessons learned coming out of that. Are we applying those to these curriculum purchases?
So I'm sorry, the what?
Lessons learned. We found out some things that in the course of actually using the material.
May I have any discussions been with you since this is a high school topic?
Not particularly, no.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. If I remember correctly, what that was about though, was it elementary? And was it just the like scope and speed of getting used to a new curriculum and
Maybe
getting
that's
prepared with it?
It could have been more for the teachers and.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
recall this too,
The
and
material wasn't working, right?
yeah, like the material wasn't
Yeah.
working quite as well as they wanted in terms of like technology
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
And so they were finding themselves having to revert back to some old stuff. But then I think they had gotten that, and that was a presentation I think they did last spring,
Mhm.
like maybe January, February even. So I do remember that now.
Good evening. I hope you are having a great summer. I'm here tonight.
and let's get that. Come on.
Get up on that.
Press the button that says.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just-
Come on.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Oops, sorry.
Need to talk about science adoption. So just a reminder, as part of the curriculum management systems cycle for middle school, high school, we're at that point of ordering science materials. We've already ordered social studies, social emotional learning materials, ELA, and math. So next year you can see as part of the cycle will be our CTE, fine arts, and including a wealth of content areas. The team this year that I got to spend the year with, Jordan is our instructional coach at the high school, Kayla's middle school, Marty and Jay are high school, and then Chelsea Byram is our Central Rivers AEA science consultant. We were able to have many meetings, spend a lot of time together to choose the perfect fit for our middle school and high school science curriculum materials. We were able to look at the Iowa Science updates, specifically for East Marshall, and looking at grade levels and the state average, where we were at for proficiency. So we were spending a lot of time, first of all, looking through data. Chelsea then helped us with some other science update with some standards that were shifting. They were close to the same, but there was a few tweaks. As always, we wanted to make sure that we were up to date, so we brought her in for that. We were also able to look back at the science Iowa assessment blueprint and see what some of the changes were there. So after studying that data and really digging in with Chelsea with the standards, we were able to move on and study what was high quality instructional materials. We used some EdReport and some other sources to help us dig in. We first started with what we wanted, the Mustang way, we called it. What do we want? What do we not want when we're looking at curricular materials? So you can see here that our list that we came up with is and is not the Mustang way. We then were able to get specific 6, 8, and 9, 12 look for. So you can see some of the look fors were the same. Some of them are different for the buildings and what specifically they were looking for. based on their Mustang Way, based on those science standards updates, and then based on that data. We already had some things specifically at high school that we knew would fit our need. We're using a program called Poggle and Gizmo. And so this is a lot of hands-on simulation. We wanted to keep these because they're very high quality. However, they're supplemental. So they're not a comprehensive systematic program, but we did know going into it that we really wanted to keep these two things. One, they weren't very expensive, and two, they really had a lot of hands-on learning for students. However, we knew that we needed more of that systematic and comprehensive program for kids. And so we were able to explore lots of curriculum. We were sent lots of materials to look through, to explore, to have conversation around. We were able to meet with reps. And then we were able, from this list that you see here with all these different companies, really narrow it down. So we were able to narrow it down into Inspire Science, CK12, and Open Sci. We then as a team were able to really hone in on the positives that we saw and the negatives that we saw, really going back also to data and the Mustang Way and those look-fors. And then we were able to really make that decision. So based on all of those things that we've talked about, middle school felt that the Open Sci had the best things for their needs. And so you can see here that that is what they would like to propose for 6-8 is the Open Sci. And so you can see that order total would be there. The high school felt that the Inspire Science, based on the positives for them, for biology and physics and environmental science and anatomy, would fit them. So they are proposing to go with the Inspire Science for the high school. Next, I want to move in and give you an update on a learning that we had on May 27th. We actually, all staff K-12 was able to attend a learning in Marshalltown at the AEA around media resources. So next year, as part of our Central Rivers District Service Plan, we were able to purchase media resources for our K-12 staff. And so we wanted to make sure that our staff was very aware of the resources that are available. We have a physical collection through an online catalog, and we have digital resources that are based on content specific areas. And we wanted teachers to really feel confident in where to find and access those resources so they would utilize them. As in the past, AA resources were free, and a lot of teachers we have found don't know how to check out physical resources and don't know where digital resources are. And so now that is a pay for service, we wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what they had for choices and where they could really check those things out. So the physical resources we utilize a catalog is Xignia, and we were given a tour of where those resources were at and how to check them out and the time frame that you could check them out, and they actually would be delivered right to the teacher. So just a few of the many things that are in this physical resource catalog are models, virtual welders, transfer VR, bucket drums, ukulele, books with audio, book resources. There's hundreds of box book sets that teachers can check out. There's lots and lots of equipment. There are games. There are media kits. There are models, and there's professional books. that teachers can select from. We actually were given a tour of the AEA and how the van deliveries go out, where we keep all of the physical resources. Teachers were able to grab models and kits and look through them. And a lot of staff members actually checked out things right there to have for August when they get back. A few of the newer things again were that welding virtual welder kit, electrical wiring kit, which is virtual. And then something that's brand new is the transfer VR set. So it really looks at career exploration, and that headset, they get to go to this in virtual environment to understand different career options. So some of our teachers were able to take opportunity in utilizing that. The canine vet trainer, this is a new thing that a lot of them were able to look at and dig into as well. Real Care Babies is new, maybe not new, but some of the effects that they look at, like as for example, the shaken baby or drug affected or fetal alcohol syndrome, Down syndrome, birth defects, preemie baby. So they were able to add some new things to it. Then we were able to dig into digital resources. So if you were able to anytime go into Central Rivers, there's digital resources. These are the ones that we will have access to and have bought for teachers to use as a supplemental resource to their curriculum. And so you can always go to this and dig in. There's a digital library. There's so many resources that they were actually taken through that day, and they were given the purpose of them, what grade level they would be used for, what they would be used for. And so staff really felt, no matter their content area, that they were able to take away something, whether it was from pre-K to high school resources. Like I said, we have lots of explore time. This really helps them to get familiar with the materials, digital and hands-on. So I was able to capture a couple pictures that day of them doing some learning at AEA. So it was a great day, lots of positive feedback. Teachers are very excited to utilize all of the resources come fall. So lastly, I just want to take a minute to really thank Mr. Ryan for all the service you have given to East Marshall, your commitment to everyone, and we really do wish you success. I personally have enjoyed working with Mr. Ryan, and he has been such a great superintendent to work with, really hands-on and involved in things that we have been doing. And I have been here, this will be my 4th year, and he has really been an integral part to helping with the curriculum. So we really wish him all the best in his new role and your next chapter in your professional journey. Hope everyone has a great rest of your summer, and I will look forward to seeing you all in the fall. Good night, everyone.
Any questions on the curriculum stuff?
I just wonder how easy is it for students to go from one type of curriculum to the other? Is that a silly question?
In middle school.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've heard some frustration from my student, like it's completely different than it was math last year or science that year. Like, is that ever a concern? Or is that a silly concern?
Full comment?
I would say usually it comes down to how the teacher transitions from one book to the other. I mean, sometimes it's a natural change, especially at high school, because a lot of times you move from one teacher to another teacher.
Mhm.
Curriculum might be the same, but probably the way they handle it is gonna be different regardless, even if you're using the same series.
Okay.
But I will be the first to say, I taught a new math series this year, and it was considerably different than what we previously used, and there was a transition time for students to understand. Even just the setup of the book was considerably different, whether, there wasn't 80 problems anymore, there was about 20 to 25 total. But a vast majority of them were story problems or, problems where there was a lot more involved than just doing rote repetition of the same problem over and over. I think that new curriculum is always good, but it's also, it's easy to say the teacher can just step in and start using that curriculum right away, but that's very true. But the teachers need to be supported in a way that they can spend some time and dive in and get their hands around what they're using. Last summer, unfortunately, the math stuff didn't show up until about August. So, Mr. Weeder, myself, and Mr. Rush have, I don't even want to say the number of how many years of teaching between the three of us, but it's a lot. And it was a lot for us to, change and kind of jump into that new program. So a lot of times, it's the kids are probably gonna handle about as well as the teachers do. If the teachers could do a good job of explaining what the book is trying to accomplish, the kids are probably gonna be like, okay, I can handle this. But there are times where it can be a big change, especially, the math books we were using were 25 years old.
Mhm.
There's going to be a change in the way the curriculum is
Yeah.
written when you're using stuff from the mid-90s to
Yeah.
now. That's just reality. So, it can be an issue. Hopefully teachers can address that with kids as they work through it though. And that's what I tried to do, was explain to them what the book was trying to do a lot of times. Say, this is the way this book is set up. This is how we're gonna handle this. Now, some days that went better than others, and some days truly the new math curriculum was set up to try to instigate some thought process, tell them, hey, what are your questions about a big problem like this? And then the idea is, don't tell them the answer. Make them wait through all of the examples and everything else to where they finally get to a point where they might be able to solve that problem. Which for some kids was just fine, but for other kids are like, I want to know how to do this problem right now. I don't want to wait till the end of the day. So, it does take some work by the teacher to, make sure that they're using the curriculum in the right way. And sometimes for certain kids, this was upper level math. So, you got inquisitive kids that,
Mhm.
they're not just gonna be like, they're not like some math kids. I don't care how you find this problem, just tell me what it is. These ones want to know how to do it, figure it out. So definitely comes down, how much of a change it is. And I would say we had a major change in some of our areas because honestly, I don't think we've bought new textbooks to high school in many areas in 20 plus years.
I think elementary, middle school wise, I always said. There's usually depending on how old the curriculum is, there's about a 2-year gap when you're trying to, your new curriculum is up here where your old one was down here. And so now you're trying to reteach and fill in those gaps so that in about 2 years, then you can teach at grade level.
To get
It's
it
just
there.
kind of what I've seen.
From a teaching standpoint, is there much concern though with selecting two different curriculums, for one separate curriculum from middle school and then a separate curriculum from high school? I guess that would be my concern. Is there gonna be some struggle there? If they're under a type of curriculum and then go, not really?
I don't think we've
Okay.
ever had a K through 12 curriculum series all the way through. And here's what happens. Certain companies specialize in certain areas and they get really good at what they do. And then all of a sudden their series just stops.
Okay,
The math series only goes to L2. Then you have to jump to a whole different company to do pre-calc,
so this
college
is pretty
algebra. and
standard, okay.
So it is pretty normal
Okay.
very rare for a district to be K through 12 all the way through, because what happens is different teachers see things that look better at their level. And, the company might be really good at this level, but they don't even extend past here.
To that one,
You
okay,
have to make other choices anyway.
gotcha, okay, thank you. I can make a motion then for the approval of purchase of science curriculum.
I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right. Next agenda item is the approval of contract for transfer of state special education funding with Central Rivers AEA for 25-26.
And this is a formality that's required by the legislation at this point. We are past that 1 year where certain things are still kicking in. This is one of those items. The AEA has been working with superintendents throughout the school year at superintendent meetings, and this is where we're at this point with these agreements.
Does anybody have any questions?
And is that percentage set by the law, the
Yeah.
transfer the 90%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we have no say in that.
I can make a motion to approve the contract for transfers state special education funds with Central Rivers AEA.
I can second it.
All right, all in favor?
Hi.
And any opposed? All right. The next item is a approval of purchase for a new stove and oven / oven appliance for Laurel Elementary.
I think I sort of mentioned it last time that, I think it's because the state is trying. They don't want you having too much excess money. I had to do some
Yeah.
reporting on the expenditures for 3 months or so. They don't want more than that sitting.
This was money
in the
sitting in
bank
a
account,
food account,
so
basically, right?
They kind
So-
of throw out some options for you to spend down your funding. And Amy would like a new oven.
I'm fine with that. I can make the motion for the.
Hold on, mate. And this is also the ISJIT account, right?
Yes.
So these funds are actually being pulled from some investments we have. And I mentioned the walk-in cooler freezer earlier. That's where a majority of the funds probably, well, I would encourage you to consider that. When
We'll see
that
if we can
occurs.
use that,
Yeah.
those funds to pay for this walk-in freezer.
Got it.
But that
Okay.
won't be affected if we approve this. It's not
Correct.
go for the walking
Yeah,
cooler
yeah.
instead of this,
Yeah,
correct? Okay.
go with this because this is what Amy supports as well right now.
But then this is a pool that we'll be able to potentially pull from for that walk-in. Got it, okay. Yeah, I can make a motion for the approval of the purchase of a new stove of an appliance for Laurel Elementary.
Can I get a second?
I can second that.
And then all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right. The next is the approval of JF.
Okay, last year and the year before, I think both years you have asked what this renewal
Yeah, I
is, so I asked Cole to do short and sweet, because Cole will be very detailed with his emails and so forth, and so this is the response we received from Cole in regards to this topic. This is something that you do wanna continue to renew.
So. And we still have some Apple devices, but we're moving away from the devices.
But your educator ones for sure.
Okay,
Well, your employees.
Yeah.
And man, if I'm not mistaken, this year we're cycling over to 100% of Chromebooks at high school this year, right?
Yeah. The last for MacBook, like I said, the seniors had, and they will, I believe, transition to staff throughout the district. Upgrade any older computers it might be.
so we'll keep staff on Apples, but we'll have the kids on Chromebooks. Anybody else have challenges with sharing Google documents with their child?
All the time.
Just saying. But maybe it doesn't go the opposite direction. I don't
Um,
know, but
the
I'm
one
like,
thing-
I can't open it.
The one thing I wondered about this, so it has licenses for 438, 221 and 36. Do we really have that many Apple devices that we are still actively using in the district? If we've converted over to Chromebooks?
I'm leaning on principles of this one.
I would guess after this year, the only apples we will have left would be staff members, which might be pushing 100.
Yeah,
I
not 400.
I can't see what you're looking at, so I guess I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but we
there-
don't have 400.
There's
no.
438 on one.
438 at $18 a piece.
Well, sorry, I better take that back. I
Mm-hmm.
believe there's some, are the carts?
The carts.
So there would be some iPads. There would be, so there would be more than 100. I'm wrong by that. Don't,
Okay.
that is, that next year there'll be probably 100 laptops in place being used by staff.
Huh.
But there are some Apple carts, I believe, that are being used. And then there's that there'd be iPads.
Kids already have iPads, which are starting to show their age.
Cole would probably have to do a review of how many total devices. I don't know how many total devices we would have throughout the year.
I wonder, this seems like a pretty exuberant amount for,
If you wanna table it, go ahead and
Yeah,
table it.
let's table it.
yeah, I'd like to have him audit devices and make sure that the ones that we're paying for are the ones that we're actually using. So. Cause if we're only using, 100 staff computers and maybe 50 iPads and maybe are the computer cards just at the elementary?
Yeah.
So
As far as
maybe,
I know, I don't think that's.
Yeah.
What they have in middle school, I'm assuming they're Chrome. I
Yeah,
thought they
the
have Chrome.
Chromebooks, they're all one to one.
So, yeah.
yeah. So it just seems like that's an exuberant amount of licenses.
Seems like maybe what our original amount would have been.
Exactly. Exactly. So it might be time to update those numbers and save ourselves a few dollars.
Then we'll move to agenda item 9, discussion of outstanding fees for families and turning over to collection.
So I have a narrative in there that kind of gave you some background. It dates back to 2016 as far as our existing policy. Our secretaries and our principals in their offices have been working very hard throughout the year, contacting our families that have outstanding fees yet. We've talked about this before in the past. We haven't been real aggressive with the collections because that's a pretty major deal. But I do believe we are to a point where we need our parents to communicate with us if they need help, and we'll do a workout plan with them. Or we'll give them free and reduced paperwork. But don't flat out ignore us, because we have some on this list that are flat out ignoring us. Our secretaries have emailed, our secretaries have made phone calls. I sent snail mail, hard copy letter to all of the families on the list, asking or notifying them in, I believe I asked them in the letter to please contact their respective offices and let us know, we're here to help, we'll work with you, but please pay the bill, or, give us a call and give us a plan. So it's not that the district hasn't been working with our families. We have been at this diligently with a spreadsheet since January. Matt, you and I talked about it earlier today. Was it January?
I think we talked about this at one of our.
Yeah.
I will say though, I was one of these parents and I had no idea. I didn't find out until the week school got done. I had no idea.
You probably got my snail mail then. didn't you?
That's what
So when
happened.
you say you have no idea, we have, well, the secretary is supposed to be keeping data that they've sent emails, made phone calls. So are
apparently
you saying
this-
you didn't get a phone call?
I never got a phone call. Apparently there was an email sent, but it went to the wrong address.
Okay,
And so I had no idea. I got the snail mail letter and I immediately called Jeannie and I'm like, what's going on here? And what had happened was when I paid, I think it was for Lexi's book rent, you know how you have to put in quantity 2
Mhm.
to pay for both semesters? That's what happened. I put in quantity 1, paid for 1 semester. So this went the
I'm not
entire year before I had any idea. So I am of the opinion we should give a little bit of grace, because I've also heard from other parents, why are they calling me now about this? Why had I not heard anything earlier in the school year?
can I emphasize?
So,
I emphasize, on the flip side of that, our registration fees are due at registration. They really are.
But wasn't there like an issue with our system this
was.
last fall?
So the snail mail is the reason why we send it, is exactly what Liz is sharing, is electronically, if the ball gets dropped on that, whether it's email on the side of the server, wrong email address, whatever. Phone calls as well. If we leave voicemail, sometimes it doesn't always deliver. I know with my personal cell phone, sometimes it's 24 hours before the message finally delivers to my inbox. And they called the day before. That's why we did the snail mail. Okay. And I empathize with you, but on the same token, right? You register your kids, you know the fees are gonna be there. I sent snail mail out. I think it's fair that they either pay it by June 30th or the district hand it over to collections, because this is why. It's unfair to the families that do pay on time, that are conscientious about it, that did respect the letter that they received, at least communicating back with the district. So by the district not doing something is shortchanging those that have done what they were supposed to do along the way. So I hear what you're saying, but we also did 3 different approaches. It was a lot to send out snail mail. You print the paper, you do the envelopes, it's all laborious, much more laborious than sending out an email.
Did,
But we did it to make sure that, okay, we've tried the other ways. Now you get in the traditional way where the mailman's dropping it off at your house.
did the letter actually get that June 30th date in there?
No, that has not, that's me saying this as in, but in the letter, I do believe we've asked.
I didn't see the letter. so.
I think I put in there, Liz, that please reach out to us ASAP so we can get the, and I did mention that it was gonna be turned over to collections.
Collections, yes, I do.
So what we can do is do one more letter and say, if we don't hear from you by June 30th, please know it's being turned over to collections. Or we can push that out on Facebook too, saying, you know, not put family names, but put out there, if you received a letter saying you have outstanding fees, please know as of June, you have until June 30th, and it'll be,
Pay or make arrangements.
yeah.
To pay or make arrangements.
But there again, we understand this sensitive topic. This is more than just paying your bill. This is a credit, right? Your credit reports will be impacted by this.
When did the letters get sent out, or when did the letters get sent out, and have you had anybody call in?
I did.
Other than
I
the,
literally called from the parking lot of the post office, because I'm like, Janine, what is this? What are
Like, what's going on?
And she's like, well, I think I sent you an email about this. And then she checked and she's like, oh, it went to this address. I'm like, well, that might have been why. And then she's like, well, you should have gotten a phone call. I said, I've talked to the office staff at both schools probably 100 times both this year, and I've never gotten a phone call. So I apologize.
yeah,
I said it could have been one of those things in passing, but then when we looked at it, because I'm like, I know I paid all my other fees. She's like, you did. And then we looked and
Mhm.
said, this is what had happened.
The secretaries are to make phone calls and the secretaries are to send out emails. That's
So-
what the
So
expectation.
the challenge was you must have tried to pay all your fees online, and you just didn't do the 2 semesters.
I just didn't do the
We
two
do that
semester, I
so
just did
that
the
if-
one.
If,
And
you
didn't
know, the
realize
family
it.
can't afford to pay the full year at that time, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that makes sense, yeah.
Choose one semester, but then sometimes they forget to come back and,
Pay the second.
but there's, secretaries should be sending out a reminder.
So when we pay
October,
through
November, we haven't
JMC,
paid
right,
first.
that's where we pay our fees, so
Our
we get our
school-
lunch
school
account
pay.
notices, right?
Yeah.
Could JMC send a notice about?
It's not
their-
JMC though, it's school pay.
It's school,
Oh.
different, yeah.
or pay school or whatever.
Mhm.
What I am wondering though, I like the idea of putting a notice out that June 30th is that cut off, but is there a way that we can put a hard stop on their registration process through JMC that they can't re-register for next year until we have fees paid? Or
That's gonna throw
communication?
off some of the other functions for the,
Okay.
I mean, the planning at the building levels and so forth. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I kind of dabbled with that, and the more I consider the big picture, I really think that's gonna cripple the building level.
Okay.
Or maybe, not issue computers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be not issue computers. And we could take from their $50 computer fee and they have to pay it again. But no, I do think a communication needs to go out with that deadline, just sometimes people need
No,
that.
the June 30th is, I'll be honest with you, I'm putting June 30th. So I'm the bad guy. Yeah, I don't think it's fair to have Kevin, I don't think it's fair to have Kevin come in and say, I'm sending this is my first correspondence.
Yeah, the first, I totally agree.
And so June 30th was handpicked by me, so y'all can be mad at me on my way out.
No, I
right?
think that's fair.
It truly isn't fair to Kevin to do that right away, so.
Oh, so this went out in May.
So roughly how many
And have you
families are we talking
Yeah.
about at this stage of the game?
We've had some that call and.
Like how many that are outstanding?
Yeah,
You know,
and-
just rough, yes. Doesn't have to be. a
I didn't
number, I'm
grab
just
it.
curious.
Well, I have 1, 2. Don't know how she did these lists for sure. If this is a group of everybody. It's gotta be. Would you say that is 25, 30? Per page?
Yeah, per page.
Probably, I don't know, 50 to 75.
So we have a full amount at the end of one column at the end.
I also had a parent tell me that they got this letter and they weren't paying it because it said book rent and their kid doesn't get issued books. And I said, well,
About changing that.
Yeah.
we need to change the language of it.
But how the parent interprets the definition is irrelevant. They
Yeah.
still owe the money.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They can try to play that card,
Yeah.
but come June 30th, if you guys act on it, they can play that card, but we're still handing it over to collections. I mean, we can split hairs, pay the bill,
Yeah.
every other family.
I'm just saying, should we just update our language in the future too, of like, instead of calling it book rent, why not call it, you know, registration fees or something like that?
Because the technicality is your college textbooks, this topic has been wrestled with for about a decade when legislation has changed.
Mhm.
And so I hear what you're saying, but sometimes there's technicalities that we just can't rename something because it may be part of the fiscal note or what have you. It's defined that way.
So for just this year alone, K through 12 is $8,616. And then there's still another 944 sitting out there from last year. Not paid,
Dollars.
yes.
And again, we're trying to be understanding with our families. We'll work with them, but staying silent on this isn't an option. So at this point, I'm looking for a little bit of feedback. I did not want to proceed forward with this task without the support of the school board on this one. And so I'm looking to the school board as in, yes, move forward with the established policy that has been in place for a period of time.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think you just communicate, you have till June 30th, and if we don't have it by then.
Letter or? I don't think I want a Facebook post, but that's
Yeah.
just me.
I
I'm
think
not sure
letter
it's the
would be
best
better.
vehicle, but.
Cause I think that would open up the door to comments and feedback.
You're right.
Why did I see
You're right.
that? Why did I
Yeah.
get that?
So what we will do is a hard letter from this office.
Yeah.
We're not gonna send out an email. We're not gonna do Facebook. I'm gonna type it up and send it out. We'll probably go out this week, which gives them probably 8 days to get contact the district office.
And then my suggestion would be, because it sounds like that could happen again,
Mhm.
maybe, I mean, obviously, I think we need more regular, earlier communication. So next time, as we're getting closer, or maybe we just start the second half of the year, we start right away
Okay.
hitting them.
Mhm.
The energies were there back in January.
Yeah.
I think Janine has a spreadsheet from the secretaries of the actions that they've done along the way. And that was clarified to the building secretaries. The principals received that email as well. This is your expectation moving forward because this is a sensitive topic. They were to document this stuff, send out emails, make phone calls, because some people, disregard their emails and so forth, junk mail, whatever. I sometimes don't check my home email maybe 2-3 times a week, if that.
Mhm.
So we're trying to work with our families. And then the safety net was the hard copy that was mailed out.
I'm wondering too, if it's something in the future, can we just send an invoice at the beginning of second semester for people who only paid one semester? Send them an invoice, you owe us.
Mhm.
Send a check or go online and pay at this link and put a QR code on it.
Might be a little fancy, but.
Not just saying no to the QR.
We have an invoice program.
So, just a thought.
So anyway, I've wrestled with this one, because we do care about people, we care about our families, we wanna work with our families. And where I've wrestled with it is, do we continue to kick this can down the road? And then, the reality hit me as in, what about the families that are paying on time and being diligent about it? That's not fair to them.
And it seems like that number has went up pretty significantly this year, so I think that's fair to try to collect it. Makes sense.
In all my voicemail, I'm gonna make sure it goes to Kevin.
Had to forward to myself.
Okay, so, we have the guidance and it's gonna be a snail mail, one last chance, letting them know June 30th is your day, so.
Do we wanna talk about, so we're just gonna, the repercussion is the collections agency, right?
Yes.
Try to do anything
Yeah.
with the next year's registration or anything around that.
We can wrestle with it, but I'd rather have Kevin
we can make
research it
that
a little bit
decision.
before a decision is made.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think.
Is that fair to you?
Perfect
Yeah.
storm with your email, cause something, whatever happened with JNC, I didn't, it ended up me not paying for the kids, and I was like, I swear I did, and so I got an email mid-October or November or whatever, and I was like, oh, sorry, like, I thought I had, so.
Yeah.
I bet it was just the perfect storm with you, with your.
Yeah, I mean, I
email.
literally got the letter in the mail and I'm like, what? Huh? Then I fought with my phone for a minute to try to log into the account.
Yes.
So,
And you can't see much on that, cause I tried the
No,
same thing, I'm like,
no. And the funny thing is I'd literally just been in the account like the day before because I was adjusting my lunch amount. So I didn't overpay for the year because I just have an automatic $50 that comes out every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And so I was adjusting that and then that happened and I'm like, what?
Just food for thought, I don't believe JMC has the ability to turn off access to
Okay.
people unless we would delete them
Delete
out
them
of the
altogether.
system.
Okay.
Can't really do it because of they're a student in our district and the state has them reported to us,
We need
so.
that record.
There's a process certainly. we can go
And I just
through to
didn't know,
not
like, could we
allow
just add
registration,
an amount
but the
to
JMC is-
registration this year?
Yeah.
And then they have to, they have to add that separate amount and it's just a flat, carryover from the year
If it was
before.
old school registration, that would be a lot easier.
That would
You
work.
show up in
Yeah.
person and.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I think we used to do it that way, a lot of years ago, I think.
Yes,
I think we
would.
did,
It would.
actually.
All right, I think we're
I
good.
always say if they don't pay, then everybody's gonna have to come back to the cattle call approach.
Yep.
That'll get people lit up in
Yeah.
Facebook.
All right, so I think we can move on to agenda item 10, which is the
Yeah.
approval of the EMC Jester.
Yeah, this is the annual renewal stuff. We need our liability insurance. They have some, 2080 agreements on this approval item. The next one is the actual renewal, is the annual one. So,
So this is like a pool of districts?
Yeah.
Or like?
Yeah. And if we don't do this, then the item, agenda item 11 will skyrocket on us, according to Bobby.
Yeah, because this is kind of like a stop loss insurance basically is
Mhm.
what it is.
Anybody have any questions on these?
I can make a motion to approve the EMC Jester 28E agreement.
I can second that.
All right, all in favor?
I
Any opposed? All right, item 11 is the approval of the renewal of liability. insurance.
Yeah, your renewal for your annual is this one, and it's listed there. And some of the specific categorical areas, it was a little bit of eye opener to me. However, the overall coverage one, when I broke it down, I didn't think that was too unreasonable in the end.
I am glad it's stabilized finally.
I can make the motion for the approval of the renewal of liability insurance, MC Chester.
I can second that.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed?
And your worker comp did go down. That's one over the last couple of years that we've been paying
Yeah.
attention to.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
a good thing.
And we already did this approval of the date, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we got the date for the architects, so we can pass item
But
12.
did we have that as an action item before? I don't recall.
Oh.
I don't
Can you
think-
just do an
Yes, I don't
action
think I
item,
voted. All right.
July 1 at 6 P.M.?
I'm gonna make the motion for the approval of the date for the work session with FEH on July 1st at 6 PM here at the district office.
I can second that.
All right, all in it.
All right.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, the next item is 13. It's the approval of the second reading of the model policy personal electronic devices in schools.
Okay, there's a bit of a frustration moment for Tony Ryan on getting the PDFs to work with me and so forth, so I went old school with a Sharpie pen.
Actually, I don't mind it.
Okay, all right.
Frankly.
So what what we have on this one is, this is the second final reading, but you most certainly can punt this to a third and final reading for July, because your kids don't start until August anyway. Legislatively, you're supposed to have this done by July 1. But within your policy, the way I built it in there from the sample is, I have written language in there to circle back around to the student handbooks. Okay? And it's specific in the policy that your student handbooks are to be reauthorized annually. All right? And the three buildings are not always the same and consistent. And consistent from building to building as far as the language. And so that gives you some leeway depending on the age of the child and so forth in working with them. There's some other things that we added in the language. So families do understand that a cell phone can be restricted during the day. A cell phone can be expected to be left in the office during the day. We've had parents push back on us before saying, you can't, that's personal property, you can't take. Well, if it's a disruption, it's gonna stay in the office. So we can place restrictions out there like that, and we went ahead and built it in that language in the policy as well. The intent of the language as we built it in is, again, to circle back around to how they draft the language in the student handbook. The student handbook will be published on the website, and your student handbook is reauthorized every school year. So you're not gonna have to go through the several readings to get anything changed in its policy. You can just reauthorize that handbook. The document that I put in there, is it easy to follow on, like section A lines up with section A in the policy. Section B lines up with section B in the policy. Because again, I was struggling with technology.
So my question was, it says first bell to last bell, right? So my question was, does that mean they can't use it at lunch or if they have lounge or whatever else? And so that's Tony said that that would be basically handled in the handbook.
And the way the policy have it defined here, that'll be explained. The school day will consist of first bell to last bell, and the handbook dictates when the kids can use it during the school day. And it's building level specific. The elementary or the middle school is gonna be different than the high school.
Any concerns for the second violation of this policy, the student will surrender the device to school officials to return to the student's verified parent or guardian after the end of school day or during normal business hours.
Okay, what we may do is take out the second offense and leave that language in there. And again, come back, I may have missed that second offense language and meant to take it out. The intent of the language in this is to circle back around to the handbooks. And in there, I believe on the narrative, I put our goal is progressive discipline with them. So they, by the time we take it away and say a parent has to come and pick it up, we've worked with the kid already, and the kid is just flat out ignoring the building principal.
I just heard a little bit, it's not that I'm disagreeing with, especially like the progressive. My concern is gonna be parents that aren't able to come there during normal business hours. Get that phone.
This is what I know about your building principals. Every one of them will work with the families. As long as the parents being honest with the principal and there's follow through, as well as the student. Now, if there's a past history of the parents is lying to the principal or not cooperating with the principal, then at that point, I think it's a fair expectation, as in, we've tried this before, you know, with the phone. I know every one of the principals will work with families. They have on other things. I hear what you're saying as well. What I also know is it's a big enough issue where the state legislators made it their business to create a law. As a parent, I would look at my 3 kids and probably say, don't find yourself in that situation. And if you feel that the staff member was unfair, come talk to me as dad and we'll approach it accordingly. Because sometimes the kid is right, where it wasn't implemented properly. We've had those scenarios before in the past as well.
So I guess my question would be, do we have additional changes planned from a student handbook perspective from last year?
That's for the principals to answer at this point when it comes to cell phones. Basically, what we have done with the policy is reference back to the handbook. We touched base on this policy briefly at the one admin meeting, and what I identified was the 3 different buildings were so different in their needs, so.
At high school, I'd like things to stay the same. I mean, I think that we've been pretty consistent.
They can
we've
use them
been-
at lunch. they can
Essentially had
use
the
them-
same policy for 10 years
Yeah.
before any of this.
Yeah.
The only
True.
difference is, we're now putting them in the sleeves to be able to keep track of them during the academic time. But other than that,
Yeah.
I mean, I know what that policy, state policy says. I would be interested to see how schools are going to keep students from using it in the 3 minutes they walk down the hall.
Right,
And who's gonna monitor that unless they're gonna pay for the baggies or the devices to lock them up and those types of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a unrealistic expectation that you're gonna keep kids off their phones, so are you just gonna ignore it?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna try to enforce it? And that's a lose-lose battle all the way around. I think our policy works very well. The kids understand our policy. Academic time is academic time. They put them in the sleeves, but they still get the time to use them. I mean, it's easy for me as a building principal to say, you only have to go 43 minutes before you get to use your phone again. That's not too much to ask. Put it in the sleeve, let it sit there. When you in between classes, you handle what you need. At lunchtime's your time, handle what you need. That's been that policy's been the same for us for 10 years. So I would like to continue staying pretty much exactly the way we did this year.
Same with the elementary. I mean, expectation is just to keep them in their locker. And we have not. I didn't have not a
Issue.
single issue with cell phones this year. So, I think the expectation is there and it's. Kids follow it and.
One thing that you may hear from parents is, well, I need to be able to get a hold of my son or daughter at this, well, here's the deal. The rule is the rule. If you need to get a hold of your son or daughter, you call the office because our landlines have worked since 19 whatever. And so our secretaries are there. They'll answer the phone if it's an emergency. If it's, you need to get a hold of your son or daughter, call. It's as simple as that. That's a tough buy for me to buy in that my kid needs in case I need to get a hold of my kid. Now, okay, now let's tap the brakes here a minute. We're trying to beat the system now. I'm being very candid in a public business meeting. I get that, but it's that big a deal as in the cell phone is a huge distraction all the way around. And it doesn't matter if it's kids or adults.
Mhm.
It really doesn't.
Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the second reading of the model policy personal electronic devices?
Is this your second and final or second, you wanna move it to a third reading in July?
Second final, in my opinion, I mean, I
With
think it's
it-
the handbook, it sounds like, and it
Yeah.
sounds like we're not expecting any major changes, so I
Yeah.
don't think there's a lot of discussion.
Then we'll have Janine clean it up and make it look nice.
Yeah, there you go.
Then I'll make a motion for the approval of the second reading of the model policy personal electronic devices in schools, House File 782.
I can second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Board professional development, we are done with our last book, so we did pick a new book, it's called Contagious Culture. And the principals are gonna love me for this. we would like you to participate with us this time. So we will probably move it up in the agenda just so like if you guys still want to leave early, you can, you know, we don't keep you that way. So we might kind of rearrange things a little bit. They were supposed to come Friday.
Yeah, which I have not seen them.
That's
so
okay.
I need
It's-
to check on
I
that.
kind of thought we'd take
Unless
this.
they-
Yeah, sounds good.
So
Yeah.
we'll start that. We'll hand them out next month
Start for
and
July, yeah.
yeah, and then we can start and then we'll do our first. So you guys probably have left a lot of times before we got to this. We basically just do a chapter a month essentially. And then we kind of rotate who, you know, wants to kind of present what they learned, you know, take turns with that. And obviously if you have any additional comments, you can add those, but so anything else that I forgot about on that? So. The only other thing I wanted to mention, and I know I sent it to some of you, but not all of you. Our church used to do like this angel tree camp and you had backpacks and you fill backpacks. And it was actually summer camp stuff, mostly hygiene stuff and everything. But anyway, long story short, they switched the whole way that they do it. And now the ministry provides the backpacks and we just fill them. Well, before that change happened, they had $2 backpacks at Hy-Vee, so I stocked up. And so I had a brilliant idea, not really, but and I don't know how to administer this, but I'm just gonna tell you what my idea was. So each one of us would take a backpack and maybe whoever else wants to take a backpack, because I think there's more than 5 over there. And we fill them with school supplies. So just pick whether you want to do middle school, elementary. I mean, high school's a little different. I know high school's kind of, but you could still do some stuff for high school, I think. But then we'll just, you know, so do board backpacks or whatever we want to call it. And then we'll just probably take them to the school. So maybe if we pass them out tonight, we have them back for the August meeting, because that'll be in time for before school starts. And I don't know, would Trudy be the right person to talk to about like
Right, man.
maybe people who have the need or whatever, maybe she can kind of funnel, and I can touch base with her even before we fill them if she has any specific
So is
directions.
it one for one specific child?
It'd just be, you just, I think what,
Yeah.
what
Okay.
grade or
Like
what, you
specific
know, what
grade.
elementary or middle
Fill
school.
it from the list or whatever,
Yeah,
yeah.
and just
Yeah.
pack it. And again, I'll talk to Trudy. Maybe Trudy will say, hey, do this aid, you know, whatever. Maybe she's got some very specific needs that she's aware of that we can work with her on that. But so just something that we can do to give back. I don't think I have anything else. I need to go through my notes so I went to that student success
Yeah.
thing. Super cool stuff. They're very exciting, but it's late and we started late, so I think we'll postpone that for maybe for the next meeting. So was there anything else? Because I know we kind of said that we wanted this to be a little bit of a discussion time for us for if there were any topics or anything. The only other thing I'll mention is somebody approached me at one of the last track meets about Mick Good. And they thought we should do something special for him before he either dies, which could happen before he retires, right? I mean, the reality is that man's been, I think he will probably die before he retires. But so anyway, you know, whether it's planting a tree or doing some kind of a, you know, some kind of a recognition of him while he's still around to receive it and enjoy it. So
Just for the record, he's been offered a firm contract more than once.
Mhm.
And he doesn't want to work on a contract because he doesn't want to be committed to come in. He hasn't missed a day in how long?
I know.
I don't wanna be committed to it.
Is at the elementary, his goal is one a week, to clean get one a week done, and he's got 2 of them done. I mean, he's completely emptied it, cleaned it, shampooed it, whatever. Moved everything back in. I've called teachers, you can get it if you want to, so.
Yeah.
If you ever have an opportunity to have a conversation with him, slow down and have the
Mhm.
conversation.
Well, I know the
because
kids love it.
It's a wealth, yeah,
So-
it's a wealth of knowledge and he's a fun one to talk to.
Play some Elvis for him.
Yeah,
His birthday like in October.
I don't know. I can find out
I
because.
We've got it written somewhere.
It is,
Mhm.
and it would be kind of cool maybe to make it McDay or something and maybe do
Mhm.
like a
Oh, that's
celebration or something.
Mhm.
It's fun.
Mhm.
So
But I thought that was a good idea.
gives him a
So,
key to the
very
pool.
deserving.
He already has one.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he was pretty tickled. We had our a racing day.
Oh, yeah.
Towards the end of the year, and, he got on the megaphone and got to say, racer structure engines. He was just tickled pink with that for the next couple days. He said, "Oh, I'm still running that through my head." He just, it was pretty cool.
Yep. All right, but I think if we're done with that one, then we'll move to the superintendent report.
Yeah, my report has stated there, like Lisa mentioned, it is kind of getting late here and. A lot of things I've already spoken on throughout the meeting here anyway, like the AC units at the junior high classroom and so forth, so.
So the hourly, the second bullet item, so got some grant funds in the district for the.
Yeah, Allison, you wanna touch base on that one at all?
Sure, I believe it was probably a year and a half-ish ago, we had to fill out a survey on how many staff were under $15 an hour. So we did that, and what it would cost, I think, to bump everybody up to that. Which was, I don't recall, but I think around 90,000 for a year.
Yeah, it was a substantial amount.
So the state decided 15,000 was good enough. And so that does not have to be paid to bump anybody's wage up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's not supposed to supplement their wages, so I asked around to some other districts and they paid them out as just like a one-time bonus. So I did the calculations on that based on their FTE, and that's added here to their June paycheck, so.
Okay, cool.
Over 17.
October 17th, thank you.
For some reason, I knew it was October.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
Rose. Mhm. Okay. Any other questions on Tony's report? Right? If not,
You are going to be get some carpet updates, specifically in the elementary, so just FYI. Some updates coming.
all right, but you wanna make a motion to adjourn?
I can make a motion for adjourn.
I can second that. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Perhaps it's a peak, because again, right?
Yes, yes, and we need to open the present and.
Okay, I was.